Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirajit Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki. We're continuing our study this morning of the third canto, chapter 9, text 35, entitled Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy. Rishim Adyam Naban Nati Padiyam Stvam Rajoguna Yanmano Mayanir Bandham Praja Samsrijatopite Rishim Adyam Nabadnati Padiyam Stvam Rajoguna Yanmano Mayin Nirbandham Praja Samsrijatopite Rishim Adyam Nabandhati Padiyam Stvam Rajoguna Yanmano Mayin Nirbandham Praja Samsrijatopite. Please chant.
Rishim na badnati papiyam stvam rajoguna yanmanomayi nirbadham praja samsrijitopite. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Rishim Adayam na badnati papiyam stam rajoguna yanmano mai nidbaddham prajaha samsjata pite. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Rishim Adayam na Badnati Papiyam Stam Rajogunaha Yanamanomai Nirbatam Raja Samjijato Apite. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Okay, the synonyms. Rishim, unto the great sage. Adyam, the first of the kind. Na, never. Badnati, encroaches. Padiyam, vicious. Tvam, you. Rajaguna, the material mode of passion. Yat, because. Mana, mind. Mai, in me. Nirbandham, compact in. Praja, progeny. Samsrijataha, generating. Api, in spite of. Te, yours. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. You are the original Rishi, and because your mind is always fixed on me, even though you will be engaged in generating various progeny, the vicious mode of passion will never encroach upon you. Purport. The same assurance is given to Brahma in the second canto, chapter 9, verse 36. Being so favored by the Lord, Brahma's schemes, and plans are all infallible. If sometimes Brahma is seen to be bewildered, as in the 10th canto, he is bewildered by seeing the action of the internal potency. That is also for his further advancement in transcendental service. Arjuna is found to be similarly bewildered. All such bewilderment of the pure devotees of the Lord is specifically meant for their further advancement in knowledge of the Lord. Om Agyanatimbadandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The Lord, in his form of Garbhodakshai Vishnu, is speaking to Brahmaji. You are the original Rishi, and because your mind is always fixed on me, even though you will be engaged in generating various progeny, the vicious mode of passion will never encroach upon you. I hope you are all enjoying and learning tremendously. I certainly am from this chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We discussed this a little bit on Monday. Ram Charan Prabhu was speaking how oftentimes this part of uh, the creation, we kind of skim over it a little bit. At least I have in the past. Just I just always felt it was going to be completely out of reach with my mind, and perhaps even the interest level wasn't there. And you really want to kind of go into the different pastimes, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, um, uh, other wonderful, pastimes of the, um, Parikshit Maharaj, how all this came together, and then ultimately to the 10th canto, and then beyond into, um, uh, and further after that. But this part of it, we kind of get a little bit stifled sometimes. Um, but really seeing the interaction and the dependency that Lord Brahma is showing before he's going to be asked to take on this or accepting this service and performing this service of the secondary creator, meaning that he's going to be creating this material world and populating it and be responsible for the, uh, the the activities that are about to transform. So he's going to be the progenitor, the original progenitor of this material world. So we see a couple things here in this verse. One is that um, Lord Krishna, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the Lord is calling Lord Brahma, you are the original Rishi. He's giving him some acknowledgement of his position. And then he says, because your mind is always fixed upon me, even though you are engaged in generating all various progeny, the vicious mode of passion will never encroach upon you. So he tells him that he's going to be protected in his service that he's about to do. And then finally, we read in the purport that um, later on in the Srimad Bhagavatam, specifically in the 10th canto, Lord Brahma uh, falls under an illusion in which where he tries to steal the cowherd boys as well as the calves. So how is that possible if um, here the Lord is telling him that even though you're engaged in various activities, the mode of passion will never touch you. So how did he fall under illusion? How did he develop this feeling of wanting to compete with Krishna? So um, according to uh, the services that we are given, sometimes we may be requested to perform a uh, either sometimes a very complicated service, a service that is maybe beyond um, our imagination even. And sometimes we're given a service that maybe appear from an external position to be less significant. Still, the art of service is not in the size of the service. It is really in our ability um, to perform that to perform that activity with devotion. That is the art of service. And we hear this over and over again, that it is not necessarily um, whether you're dressing the deity on the altar, or you're chosen to give class on Janmastami, or if you're sweeping the floor, or you're assisting someone, whether you're the head cook or you're the person washing the pots. From our um, material perspective, our conditioning perspective, we consider advancement in the sense of, okay, I've climbed the ladder of organizational advancement. I was a pot washer, now I'm a cook. Or, I was an assistant pujari, now I'm a head pujari. Or I went from, listening, now I'm able to give a class. And we see this as levels of advancement. I'm asked to do a big service, that'll get some recognition versus doing a service where no one even will even know that I'm there. But that is not the art of service. The art of service is, are we able to do that activity with devotion? I run into uh, this challenge in my service, it seems like all the time, where you're combined with getting an activity done, which needs to be done, but also reminding myself and others around me that we have to do it with devotion to Krishna. And that is what Krishna accepts. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati. Krishna says, if one even offers me with love and devotion a leaf, flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. But it's the devotion that he accepts. And similarly, the service in which we perform, the activity itself should be an expression of our devotion to the Supreme Lord. Krishna is not so impressed by performing that activity, climbing on a ladder, or doing something else that seems to be, from our estimation, quite amazing. Nothing is amazing to the Lord because the Lord can do it all himself. But our activity should be an act of devotion. That is what Krishna understands. So in that activity of devotion, while serving, we have to recognize, as Lord Brahma has recognized, our inability to perform the activity properly. And that is what is called humility. When we recognize our inability, and that recognition that we are dependent upon Krishna, that brings about a consciousness of Krishna, a remembrance of Krishna, a dependency upon Krishna. And that's where the Krishna consciousness starts becoming fixed into our lives. And that's why humility is so important. When we believe that we are the doer, we are the cause, we are the center of attraction. I have done this. Even if it's a smaller service, looking at it from the outside. We should never think that we are the doers. We should think that I am doing this for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is Krishna's world. Or if we're doing it at the temple, this is Krishna's temple. This is our home. This is Krishna's home. And I'm able to render some small menial service because Krishna has allowed me to do so. Even deeper than that, I'm able to do it in the mood of devotion. Krishna, allow this activity to be an expression of my love for you. This often becomes a challenge. In fact, to do the external work, to put up a ladder, to change a bulb, to fix a roof, to cook a big feast. Oftentimes we're okay with putting in the time and the energy to be able to do such activities. But to give our heart, meaning that to concentrate our mind and to have faith in the Lord, that the Lord is actually receiving the devotion that I'm giving him, that it's truly there, and developing an actual attraction for the Lord. Sometimes that's our biggest challenge. We rather hold that part of it in. We rather give ourselves to our minds and not surrender that aspect of our nature. So here, Lord Brahma is being given assurance. It says that if your mind is always fixed upon me, and again, we can imagine how this is so important, because when the mind is fixed upon Krishna, one is engaged in Krishna. In the 12th chapter, 8th verse of the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna says, you may remember these words when he says, with your mind fixed upon me. Krishna says, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always, without a doubt. And the purport Srila Prabhupada mentions that one who is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in direct relationship with the Supreme Lord, and there's no doubt that his position is transcendental, from the very beginning. This is not on the material plane. This is not mundane activity. But the key is that we're offering our devotion to Krishna. We're not simply just performing an activity. Srila Prabhupada quotes another verse. This is from the second canto, chapter 9, text 36, where the similar protection is given to Lord Brahma. He says, "O Brahma, just follow this conclusion by fixed concentration of the mind, and no pride will disturb you, neither in the partial nor in the final devastation." So we should reflect that is it possible to perform activities and not be pulled in to the material modes of nature? How can we act and not be affected? Krishna is telling us, so Bhagavad Gita speaks also quite in depth about the modes of material nature, chapter 14, and we see it again in chapter 17. And again, we see it in chapter 18 in the beginning. The Lord is telling Brahmaji here that this is possible by always fixing your mind and engaging in devotional service to the Lord. When you do so, you can actually become free from the modes of nature. Srila Prabhupada gives the example that there are two people performing activities, and they're going to the bank. One is going to the bank to make some exchange, for their particular business or their particular family activities. I made some money, I have to make a deposit, I have to sign a loan, and then I have to take money out and I have to divide it up and distribute it, and we spend it. Another person could be a devotee of the Lord. He could be dressed the same exact way and could also be standing in line, waiting to be called upon. Externally, it may look like the transactions that they are making are exactly the same. But one is performing them under the mode of passion in order to create some outcome, and the other is engaged in actually executing the Lord's service. One is protected, and the other is entangled. Protected from the modes of material nature, the other is entangled in the mode of passion. And this mode of passion, we should understand the danger that comes when we're in the mode of passion. Krishna says that misery will come about. We're driven to an activity. So mode of passion is categorized by our desires, material desires. When material desires flood our consciousness, I have to make this arrangement and that arrangement, for a better living situation, for more economic advancement, greater educational advancement. I want to acquire more land, property, more material things, in order to glorify and bring attention to myself, bring attention to my family. This is all born from the mode of passion, Rajagun. Um, when we perform activities out of pride and egoism, even activities that are recommended in the scriptures, when we perform them with this improper consciousness, when we become impelled to lust and attachment, this is the mode of passion. And the world is running according to this mode of passion, not so much the mode of goodness, also steeped in the mode of ignorance. This is the standard of living. And what happens is, when my endeavors intercept your endeavor, then we have a conflict. Or if our lust is unfulfilled, as Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, unfulfilled lust creates anger. And then ultimately it creates bewilderment. I have all these material desires that I need fulfilled. And then when those desires, we set these expectations, and when those expectations don't come through, we become very sad and morose, fall into the mode of ignorance. In fact, Krishna tells Arjuna that the mode of passion ultimately leads to distress. And we fall into the mode of ignorance. We lose hope. We lose faith. Sometimes we have to take intoxications or various different prescriptions in order just to keep the body and mind together. Because we set a standard of living which we want to live. And when that no longer works out, we have a hard time coping and dealing with that. So the mode of passion, it burns within us, driving us to perform. But how is it that we can actually become free from such modes? Krishna explains here. We have to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Sometimes, if our devotion is not fixed in Krishna, and we're performing the activities out of some lust or mundane attachment, that passion will mix with our service. And we want to rise above that as well. We don't want our service to become filled with these material attachments. We need to be able to rise above that. And that's where, going back to performing devotional service without our material conditioning. We have to focus and develop this. We have to really focus as we chant our mantras, we chant our rounds, when we listen to the scriptures, and when we're given some devotional service to perform. Krishna, I want to offer this to you from my heart with devotion. I want it to become free of all entanglements and impurities of this material world. Even though I know I am impure, I actually don't know if this is possible. Please, Gurudev, please help. Please help me. Please help me render service to Lord Krishna. And in that way, we develop this mood that I am not the doer. Because yes, I can do this, the material activity, but can I embrace this internal mood? Then Krishna comes from within the heart to help by the mercy of the spiritual master. In the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, um, Krishna gives some really nice verses that are in relationship to this particular topic. Text number 57. He says, "In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness of me, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace." So just depending upon Krishna. Krishna said, Srila Prabhupada writes in this, as far as when we depend upon Krishna. When one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. Just like a servant, one does not act fully under the direction of just as a servant, one should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. A servant has no individual independence. He acts only on the order of the master. A servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master is unaffected by profit and loss. He simply discharges his duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. So this is what Lord Brahma is being prepared for. His service is a great one, and it's being directly given to him by the Supreme Lord himself. And he's given the benediction here that you will always be protected because your mind is always fixed upon me. And that is no different from us. So this protection is given. The question may come about that, well, this is Krishna or Lord Garbhodakshaya Vishnu speaking directly to Brahmaji directly. But what about us? When we're not present before the Lord,
Oh,
Srila Prabhupada actually brings this up regarding Arjuna. He says that, one may argue that Arjuna is acting under the personal direction of Krishna. But when Krishna is not present, how should we act? Well, we have Krishna's direction in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as acting under the bona fide representative of Krishna. The results are the same. So this applies to us. That is why this process of Krishna consciousness is so important. And we have to apply it all the time throughout our lives. Then we can become free from the influences of the material modes of nature. Krishna gives us that protection. It's not on our own. Krishna actually withdraws the modes of material nature and gives us protection so that we can render unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service to the Lord. This is what we want. This is what will actually satisfy ourself. And the modes, performing devotional activities that are entangled with or intertwined with passion and ignorance, even sometimes goodness, this will also create a sense of disturbance eventually. It won't actually satisfy our true self. So the next part is very interesting. That and Srila Prabhupada brings up in the purport of sometimes it's seen that Brahma is bewildered, as in the 10th canto. And he's bewildered by seeing the action. He is bewildered by seeing the action of the internal potency, and that is for his further advancement in transcendental service. So when Lord Krishna was young, um, this was right after the killing of the Aghasura demon, the big snake. Lord Brahma, Lord Krishna and the cowherd boys, they went to have their lunch. The cows, they wandered off into the pasture, and everybody was hungry. So Krishna says, "I'll go after them. I'll go after and herd up and round up all the calves and bring them back home." And during that time, Lord Brahma, in order to uh, test the potency of Lord Krishna, young little boy Krishna, he stole the calves as well as the cowherd boys. Um, so one could argue that, well, it seems like he fell under the modes of material nature. He's acting out of he's testing Krishna. There's some pride that has entered his, um, into his consciousness. He was trying to prove something. He certainly wasn't under the protection of Lord Krishna, because under the protection of the Lord, he would not have performed this activity. In fact, it's not a sign of dependency, it's a sign of independence, that Brahma felt a superior, he was superior. Now, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and Lord Krishna, although one, they appear obviously differently. Um, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, um, you know, laying down in the ocean of the waters of devastation. From his navel, the lotus flower comes about, and Lord Brahma is situated on there. Lord Brahma, despite all his endeavor to climb down to see Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, or who is the source in which I'm coming from, is unable to. So you can just understand the immense size of this being. Where Lord Krishna, he's just, the size of a young boy, and he's herding little calves, and, he's wrestling with he's a mother and a father, who scold him. Obviously, this activity is far different than that of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and which would naturally bring about awe and reverence. So to test the potency of Lord Krishna, Lord Brahma stole these boys and cows. So we get some insight into this, so that why does this take place? All such bewilderment of pure devotees of the Lord is specifically meant for their further advancement in knowledge of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada says Arjuna was found to be in similar bewilderment, meaning that they were devotees. And then Krishna, he created a situation in order to deepen their love for the Lord. And what was Lord Brahma's conclusion? When he saw that when he returned a year later and the calves and the cow herd boys were still there because Krishna had expanded himself into each and every one of them. And when he saw this, he realized that Krishna was the supreme personality of Godhead. Even appearing as this little boy, he was non-different. He was the source of everything. And he began to pray. And he began to repent of his offense that he had committed. And in those prayers, it brought a deeper sense of dependency upon the Lord. It invoked a deeper and more profound sentiment of humility. And it recognized his eternal relationship with the Lord. So, in doing so, it deepened and awoken a further relationship that Lord Brahma had with Krishna. And so we can understand that when Krishna performs these pastimes, he accomplishes many uh, objectives at once. So he was able to give pleasure to the cows and the cowherd boys. He was able to give them protection. At the same time, there's the deepening of love that the mothers and fathers, siblings, that they gained in being able to interact with Krishna directly because Krishna expanded himself into each and every one of them. So they were all associating directly with Krishna for that year that they were away. Um, and then also to deepen Lord Brahma's love for the Lord, for his further advancement. Arjuna, as Srila Prabhupada said, in a similar way. How is it that Arjuna fell under bewilderment? Well, he was able to then get the direct instructions of the Lord. And this further advanced Arjuna's knowledge and devotion for Lord Krishna. Okay, I will stop here and see if we have any questions or comments on today's topic. Thank you very much for your time and listening in. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, nice class. I was reflecting back on what you said earlier about going to the bank and, one person comes in and they're, doing a deposit for maybe for the temple and another person's doing the deposit for their business. And I'm curious, like, what if that, same person, how do we, if we're, Leila, sorry, my dog's how do we just differentiate then for ourselves if we're, coming in and, how do we get ourselves to a point of really doing that service with that mood of Krishna? And, because we might be in that example going in to make a deposit for our paycheck that week or whatever that might be. But how do we transform ourselves so that we're not just going into the bank thinking, oh, okay, oh, this is good. This is gonna, I can buy groceries now. I can do this. Like, how can you help transform that mentality in this that everything is in the service of Krishna?
It's a good question because a lot of times we're halfway, or maybe not even halfway, but we're partially there. We're partially thinking about Krishna, but we're also a lot of times self-absorbed in our own um, in our own worlds, our own activities that even though we may not like to admit it, are oftentimes separate from Krishna. Um, and um, so how do we bring it about so that everything that we do is centered around Krishna? Um, we should understand that this is something that is necessary as we advance in Krishna consciousness. To have half of uh, our efforts rested in faith in the material world and half of our efforts invested in faith in Krishna. Uh, while it's true that um, there's no loss or failure in any of these activities, meaning that we'll continue in future lives to continue to pick up where we left off. Srila Prabhupada makes the point that we really want to become, 100% Krishna conscious. That is the nature of the soul. So we still can. So when we have these desires, um, I'm there with you. I'm there as well. We have to recognize that we're not on the level of full Krishna consciousness or pure Krishna consciousness, not yet. So how do we get there? How do we perform our um, daily activities and still be remembering and fully in Krishna consciousness? This requires some spiritual knowledge. Arjuna, he was a fighter, he was a warrior. He was not a temple devotee. Um, uh, he was given specific services to perform. And Krishna was very clear with him. He says, perform these activities, and at the same time, think of me as Krishna. With this consciousness, you will always be with me. I will give you protection. So we have to see and make this connection, and it has to be a real connection of the activities that I'm doing. How is this tied to Krishna? For most of us, we receive some type of the fruits of our action, the terms that the Bhagavad Gita uses. What is the fruit of our activity? What is the profit? What does it bear that we perform? And many times it has monetary value. So are we spending the money that we earn from our occupation to develop Krishna consciousness in our lives? It could be investing in a project for the Krishna consciousness movement, giving directly to Krishna for the Lord's service, or making our house into a temple of the Lord. And when this happens, if our house is a temple of the Lord, and we walk into our temple and we walk into our house, we feel that Krishna is the proprietor. When we cook for Krishna. We take vacations and go different. This is only to further awaken our love for the Lord. Either we go on pilgrimages or places that will inspire us to deepen our love for the Lord. We read books or entertainment. Again, is centered around the Lord's pleasure and the Lord's service. These are ways that we can purify and make Krishna the center of our lives, and not live this kind of separate life. And then when we do that, even externally, yes, there's persons, decorating their house and they're buying furniture or paint. My Home Depot's filled with people like that on the weekend. They're fixing up their house, or the furniture store's full of people doing that. Or making reservations to travel. The internet's full of people like that. Or you go to the food store to buy food. Food store's full of people who are doing that. How many people are doing that in order to serve Krishna, to serve God? So it requires an adjustment, and that adjustment oftentimes requires, deeper spiritual knowledge, and that's why reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita will bring us to this knowledge. And then we also need some help and guidance from a spiritual teacher, a spiritual master. And that spiritual master manifests himself or themselves in, our Diksha Guru as well as our Shiksha Gurus. Diksha Guru is the one that gives us our initiation. And sometimes that person may not always be available for direct consultation. But we should have Shiksha Gurus, friends, but also friends that we trust to be able to help us out and give us some instruction and guide us, to be able to. And so when we follow this, this process, this procedure, we'll certainly see improvements in this area of our life. How does that make sense?
Yes, very helpful. Thank you, Prabhu. I appreciate that. It's like you said, it's not easy, but we just have to keep engaging ourselves with the activities that we know will further our Krishna consciousness. So, yeah, thank you very much.
I liked how in this verse, the Lord tells Brahma that he says, he talks about fixing the mind upon Krishna. He says, because your mind is fixed upon me, you know, the mode of passion will not encroach upon you. You'll be protected. So we should remember, if we want this protection, even though it may not be, it may be motivated like, Krishna, I want your protection. What do I need to do to get it? Well, it requires this mental activity of fixing our minds upon Krishna. So it's achievable. We can do this. We just have to really, really want to do it. And that's, I think, where we can agree that that's where the struggle comes. Do I want Krishna all the way, and what will I have to give up to get that? So, but we should develop it, gradually. If we can't go there right away, we have to gradually, and that's the process of sadhana bhakti, to gradually purify our existence through regulation. Continue to add Krishna a little bit more, even if it's 1%, each time. Just continue to add more Krishna. Thanks for the question. That was good. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Okay. We have a lot of devotees this week, they're traveling to the Sadhu Sangha festival. We pray that they have a safe travel and a wonderful, inspiring weekend. And for those that didn't go, we'll see you tomorrow for Srimad Bhagavatam class, and this Sunday for the Sunday feast. We also invite you to come on Saturdays, if you can, to the temple. It's really nice to at least have one day where we can sit together and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. It's having this on Zoom has been a blessing that we can include more people. But I know how sometimes that gets, where we are, we're multitasking, we're either driving to work or we're listening while we're working, or cooking or doing other activities. But if we could take one day where we're just sitting down with no other distractions, you'll find this beneficial in your spiritual life. Have prasadam with the devotees, darshan of the deities. If you come early, you can chant your rounds and see the Mangal Artik of the Lord as well. So that's on Saturday, if you would like to join us. Okay. If there's nothing else, we can conclude here. Thank you all so much for your time and attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo
Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.